Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us, Susanna.
Hi. So I'm really excited to hear about this exhibition. I know that it is. First, tell us a little bit about the La Jolla Historical Society, which is putting on the exhibition. Tell us a little bit about the organization, your mission. What do we need to know?
So the La Jolla Historical Society the mission is to inspire and empower the community to make the past a relevant part of contemporary life and to serve as a resource and a gathering place to explore history, art, ideas, and culture. Mm. And the Historical Society is organizing a project for 2024, an exhibition as part of the Getty Foundation's Pacific Standard Time Art and Science project. And this will be a multi-venue exhibition presented at the La Jolla Historical Society, the San Diego Public Library downtown, the California Center for the Arts Escondido, and the Mandeville Art Gallery on the campus of UC San Diego. And the exhibition is entitled Helen and Newton Harrison, California Work, and it explores the juncture of art and science, art and ecology, and art and social activism that was the practice of the Harrisons. And by focusing for the first time on their California works, artistic projects that they produced between the 1960s and the 2000s. So for a long period of time, the exhibition will highlight the Harrisons' extraordinary art and science collaboration.
Beautiful. The La Jolla Historical Society works a lot with art and science, right? I mean, this is something that you've tended to do. Is that something that you've always gravitated toward, or is it the mission of the organization that kind of propels that?
Well, it's in keeping with the philosophy of relating issues to contemporary life. So it's very much part of the dialogue in the community and in society today. And you're right. We've done. Tatiana has organized a previous exhibition called Weather on Steroids: The Art of Climate Change Science. The current exhibition at the Historical Society is Trifecta Art Science Patron, where contemporary artists worked with research scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. So it's been an ongoing part of the practice. And as you know, I'm retired now, but the new executive director at the La Jolla Historical Society, Lauren Lockhart, is very much of the same mind in terms of issues related to contemporary society.
Yeah. Tatiana, tell us a little bit about the video that we're going to watch today. What do we need to know about it?
Well, first of all, we probably should speak a little bit about the artists themselves.
Please.
Yeah, so who are the artists that we are highlighting? So Helen and Newton Harrison, they are husband and wife team that have collaborated for over 50 years on issues of ecological art. They are ecological art pioneers. They have started their practice of art and ecology in the late 1960s. And in fact, the beginning of practice of art and ecology coincided with the first celebration of the Earth Day in 1988. Yeah, so, and in fact, the practice began. They are truly pioneers of ecological art. You cannot name another artist who dedicated their entire body of work to the issues of ecology. And so it meaning that when they embark on their journey, they said that they're not going to do anything that would not benefit the earth, the ecosystems. And so that started in the 1960s and it continues today. Helen sadly passed away in 2018 and Newton continued on his own. And Newton began artistic practice as a painter. And so it actually started in 1950s. And so he was hired to come to UCSD as a founding member of the visual arts department as a painter. And he completely turned away from his successful career of painting. He was trained in painting at the Yale University. He produced hard-edged paintings that were exhibited in big venues throughout the United States. And then he completely forgone this kind of subject of his art and initiated a new body of work with Helen that was not painting, but included multidisciplinary engagement with photography, with the spoken word, and with science. And so this piece has a genesis. So this piece was created by Newton Harrison in 2000 after Helen's death by himself as a piece for Venice Biennale to be shown there, Apologia Mediterranea. And it is a visual and spoken word piece. And the original concern for the climate change and for the ocean surfaced in their work in the 1970s when they were working on a project, San Diego as a center of the world, and where they came across and raised the issue that there will be global warming, the CO2 levels will rise, and most likely will experience drastic ecological changes. And in 1974, they participated in the first Biennale piece, which is called The Law of the Sea Conference. And it has a subtitle, where the appetite is discovered to be endless. And it means the way how political systems don't pay attention to ecology. So the political system emphasize greed and taking away from ecology. And so Apologia Mediterranea is essentially follows on those issues that were central to their works throughout their career and bring new awareness to the conditions of the ocean and conditions of the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah, Venice has been in the news a lot, for the gigantic shipping containers that are, or ships that are moving through there for the, now there's like big signs everywhere that's sort of over commercializing it. And the poor plot of land there is literally sinking with overconsumption and overuse and over tourism and all of that. So it seems to be one of these beautiful gems of the world that we obviously want to protect and respect. And so this is a beautiful homage to that. So let's watch the video and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about it. Okay. All right.
Apologia Mediterraneo. Mediterranean, you're getting more salty. And Mediterranean, overfishing is rife. Mediterranean, the poisoned waters run deep. Mediterranean, new waters will come in through the straits. At least a 3-meter rise will reduce lands available, increasing and transforming waters available. For these many reasons, and many more, Mediterranean, we owe you a new ecosystem. Mediterranean, we can and must pay this debt. And Mediterranean, we're grateful for the invitation to work with you. Yet, our behavior toward you is bad and getting worse, with 136 pleasure ships dumping 250 million gallons of fecal waste into your waters every year, and the surrounding cities, many still lacking wastewater treatments, dumping another 6.5 million pounds of shit waste into your waters each day. And then there are the oil tankers, taking 9,000 trips back and forth across your surface, deliberately dumping 40 million gallons of oil into your waters, year after year, in tank washing operations along the way. Mediterranean, we have, unfortunately, painfully, even moronically, set up the conditions for the death of the ocean that is you. Mediterranean, Mediterranean, your salinity is increasing, and the temperatures around you are rising. And already in the now, the temperatures that surround you are 1.4 degrees centigrade higher than before. And this continues at a much faster rate than the rest of the world. Already in the now, your total fish population has dropped 65%, and the drop is likely to continue. Already in the now, 536 million people crowd your shores, living in cities, towns, farms, each asking for more from you than they give back. And even more of you is asked from the 600 million tourists that come to your shores every year. I imagine what they will find if this poisoning continues, and we see that the true cost of letting you die is still greater and greater. Mediterranean, Mediterranean, by virtue of our bad behavior, we must choose to preside over your funeral or your rebirth. Ah, Mediterranean, it will take trillions of dollars to move upward all the industry on your shores. As the waters rise 3 to 5 meters, so very likely in the next 100 years. Yet, on the other hand, we may refuse to spend these monies and then watch as all the poisons that are in all the petrochemical plants and their subsidiaries that exist near your edge in France, in Italy, in Greece, and many other countries allow millions of tons of pollution to enter your water already so deeply distressed. Mediterranean, Mediterranean, I can feel the heat. I can smell the fish dying. Mediterranean, I am so sorry it has come to this. Mediterranean, the matter at hand is whether we will put aside the resources to save you or spend the same amount setting up the situation and then permitting your death. Ah, Mediterranean, you can see from all these numbers how much all of us have hurt all of you. Yes, I am so sad that it has come to this. Even to ask forgiveness facing a death of this magnitude seems fatuous. Truly, Mediterranean, I'm so sorry it has come to this. Mediterranean, the best thing I can think of is to stop the giant pleasure ships from dumping their waste again and again, and to stop the pollution coming from the cities, and to slow fishing until stocks revive, and to begin a search for aquatic species that can live in more than usual saline waters. Mediterranean, they exist, and we can find them. Mediterranean, on your southern side, the Great Sahara touches your shores for 1,500 miles. I see the Sahara jumping over your waters as 74 million acres of land in Italy, Spain, and the French Riviera, along with many more, slowly become deserts. And Mediterranean, Mediterranean, even in the unlikely event that we keep our Paris climate agreements, we are told the countries around you will become deserts anyway, shadows of the great empires they once were, when forests of cypress grew in the time of Gilgamesh and before. Yet we see a strange hope visible on the horizon, the far horizon, several thousand miles away, at the southern border of the Sahara, where a great band of green is being planted along 8,000 miles, a mosaic of indigenous farming sites, and many, many trees entangled. We argue for an echo in the northern Sahara near your water's edge, and we call this echo the children of the Nile, a parallel thread of oases with farming radiating out from their centers, informed and created by the Bedouin people who know so much about how to tend the waters in this most desolate of landscapes. So we think to value the knowledge of the Bedouin, accumulated since Neolithic times and before, to create this children of the Nile work and to slowly bring life to where there was once none. How to do such an impossible thing, you may ask? Why, by reading the landscape and diverting a fraction of the 2.5 million acre-feet of water that is now taken from the Nile River and used in an Egyptian industrial farming site that is 430,000 acres in size, to seed a string of oases along your southern coast. We call on this as an ancient practice and as an attractive force for waters, creating self-regenerative cycles and synergy of organisms, beginning with the seed of a date palm and becoming more with layers of fruit trees and nuts and cereals beneath. And as the oases grow, they generate their own water and need to take no more from the Nile. But the will to do this. It does not yet look strong, the will to do this. So finally, I fear that I must sit on your shores and watch you die. How sad, how unnecessary, how stupid are the greedy people who have the power to insist on this by holding back resources that would reverse the slow dying of you. Mediterranean, Mediterranean. Particularly sad is that the gross transnational product of the globe, which is some $71 trillion, some of these monies should literally be ripped from the hands that hold it and spent on your behalf. So Mediterranean, what do you advise that would let you continue to live in concert with ourselves? And the voice came back into my head with force, saying, human, the 21 countries that touch me have a $9 trillion a year gross national product. 5% a year of this, put on the table for as many years as it would take, would untangle the destroying of me by the many. And human, at least $1 trillion would be necessary to remove the industry touching my water's edge, so that when the oceans rise, I will not be further poisoned. And human, leaving oil on my surface needs to be criminalized. And human, fishing must be ceased until the larger fish beings in my community return and adapt to the salt and thrive. And human, the heavy metals that poison my bottom mud must cease. Then the untangling will have begun. If not, as you know, I will die. But I know my history, and over the millennia, I will return. But you, human, you, in all your billions, will probably die, and certainly not return as you are.
Thank you. Wow. That was really powerful, obviously. I'd love to hear your first impressions when you first watched this.
Well, when I first watched it, and it's obviously written by Newton and his sciences work as a poet, and poetry has been very central to Helen's and Newton's work. And with the medium of poetry, they were able to convey so deep convictions they have about ecology and about relationship between humans and ecology. And so he is saying that we need to change our behavior. If we don't change, the oceans will die, the land will turn into desert, we will die. Mm-hmm. So, and he's saying it's not just simply saying that there is no way out, but in fact is an invitation to change our behavior, to be more generous about mm-hmm. the ocean. And so my first impression is that it's very sad, and at the same time there is no time to waste, that we need to act upon what he's saying, or what we see around us, around what happens to the earth. And so this invitation to act, I think, is that something that moves me in my project, designing this exhibition, thinking about it, because the heart of it is not just about the beautiful art that we will put on the walls, but the art, at the heart of it is the way how we can change something around us. Mm-hmm. Inspirations that we see is a central part of Helen's and Newton's work.
Yeah, I love one of the statements that hit home for me was, we will either preside over your funeral or over your rebirth. And I love that he offered the hope that there is still a chance to preside over the rebirth of this part of the earth, but of the entire earth in general. What about you, Heath?
In all the conversations about the environmental crisis and the crisis of biodiversity, you hear numbers and facts and statistics quoted. And Newton did the same thing in a very powerful way because it was woven in with the poetry. And in doing so, that allows us, it gives us an emotional reaction to it. It humanizes it in a way that without that poetry would not be possible. And that poetry, as Tatiana has said, that's been part of the Harrisons' lifelong artistic practice. The other thing that struck me is you get a sense from Newton's performance of the range of the problems facing the Mediterranean Sea. And in a way, it's a microcosm of the entire planet and the existential threat posed by climate change and the biodiversity crisis. You know, when you consider that the Mediterranean basin is less than 1% of the entire surface area of the oceans on the planet, and you scale those problems up that Newton expressed, then you can start to get a sense of the overwhelming enormity of the challenges that we face.
Yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, thinking, well, I'm just one person, I'm just an individual, and what are you armed with, right? Like, how can you attack such a problem? I think exhibitions like this, how artists respond to the climate issues and the earth, but it takes intentionality. It's actually like caring and being intentional about your actions as individuals, as a collective, as a community, as humanity. This type of work helps us to see things in a broader perspective. As we're talking about generosity and compassion, this seems to really showcase our lack of generosity and compassion for the earth. Has anything surprised you in this process?
Yeah, it's what is amazing about their work, Helen's and Newton's commitment to the same topic of changing or improving our relationship with the earth and our relationship with nature, or our understanding of nature. And they approach this from different angles. They have done science. So one of the longest works they have done, Lagoon Cycle, took over 7 years, where they have daily experimented with growing crops in ponds in the artist studio at UCSD. And so their commitment to use science and also contribute to science, and then condense science to the facts that could be understood as simple person, so that the simple person could be inspired to make certain decisions that change their perspectives. And so this call to action, it's absolutely one of the important part of the work, and also offering some solutions. Like in the Apologia Mediterranean, he talks about, well, if we spend just 5% of our gross income and reinvest it in the ocean, or we can reinvest it into rehabilitation of rivers, like we have San Diego River in San Diego, like one of the constant problems, very similar ones, pollution. So if we reinvest, if we make new law that we cannot take more than we give back, that we need to give back to the ecology, this is an underlying single viewpoint that has been communicated throughout many works that they have produced over the 50 years practice.
That's interesting. I'm reading a book right now that talks about, you know, the Native American practice of what you just said, never taking more, right? Always leaving enough so that it will regenerate and regrow and continue to flourish. And you know, it's a philosophy that we tend to not do. We just take it all. You know, as humans, humanity tends to do that. And so it's just taking a look at things in a very different way about ensuring its continued health and well-being of the earth and our rivers and our plant life and, you know, all of that. Any other takeaways that we should think about before 2024 exhibition comes around? Anything we should be paying attention to?
Well, I'd like to follow up your comments and just say that, you know, I think what we saw from Newton's presentation can help all of us in our compassion for the earth and these environmental issues. You know, it's about each other as well. And more importantly, it's about future generations and having compassion for all these things and understanding that we need to be generous to ourselves in the way we live our lives so that it's environmentally friendly. And you know, these are global problems that require global solutions. So governments have to take the lead in this, but businesses, civil society organizations, and all of us individually have a role to play in the way we are generous in living our lives that in ways that are environmentally friendly and thinking about each other and the future generations to come. You know, the drive to decarbonize is the story of the human condition in the 21st century. And the messages from the Harrisons in their lifelong artistic practice with regards to environmental problems and solutions have never been more important than they are today.
Definitely.
I like also to add that one of the important angles that they take in their work is that they speak from the voice of nature. They, like in the Apologia Mediterranean, here essentially brings up the voice of the ocean or sea. And many other works, they always imagine that nature speaks to us in what it wants to say. And this is a rare kind of message because we tend to think only from human perspective, how nature can serve us. And I think one of the biggest takeaway that if we can imagine that nature has a voice and can speak back, so what this dialogue could look like if we can reimagine our lives in that way, that we imagine environment as a partner rather than the sole kind of source of abundance to serve our needs. So if we can have that dialogue more enacted in our lives, in the way how we live everyday life, I think that's the biggest takeaway from Helen's and Newton's artistic practice that we like to highlight in 2024 exhibition.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much. This has been a beautiful conversation, very enlightening. I really appreciate your commitment to art and science and bringing that forward, both of you. We're so excited to see the exhibition 2024 Pacific Standard Time, organized by the Getty. Please, we will share all the information on how to visit that exhibition in the chat. We'll share that with everyone. Thank you so much, Heath, Tatiana, Sizonenko. It's an honor to know you, and we're so pleased to get to share this with our audience today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, Tatiana.